He literally showed me creation. I watched it from nothing to everything. And he explained everything from creation all the way through to the new heavens and the new earth and everything in between. He says, and then I will restore you a new brain, and I will restore every memory of your entire life into that brain. And I will restore everything that you learned from me, everything you experienced here, and everything that I taught you with full total recall.
What happens when a man crosses over for 44 hours and returns with a testimony of heaven? Robert Marshall died of a rare form of cancer in 2024 and spent 44 hours in heaven. During that time, he was shown many supernal things and encountered Jesus. Jesus taught and revealed to him, basically showing him how he created all things. Robert Marshall came back with a message you need to hear, and a miracle from Jesus that the doctors could not deny. This is Supernal Encounters. I pray this blesses you. Let's get into it.
What I'm going to tell you, what makes it amazing is it's not really about me, although I'm the venue that he allowed it to happen to further his glorification. It started on May 16, 2024, as you had said. And on that day, I woke up with a very large mass coming on my neck, and it would go up. I had an earache, and I was having trouble swallowing and breathing. It was very difficult. It was pushing on my airway. And what happened was I decided to go to a standalone emergency room in Willow Park, Texas, and I did. And I walked into the emergency room, and they looked at me. And of course, you go through the same normal routines that you do when you go to emergency rooms. They took me into the back and took my blood pressure and all the normal things and test everything. And of course, the nurse says that to wait there, the doctor would be in shortly. And the doctor came in, and of course, he started poking and prodding and trying to figure out what was going on. And he said, "Well, what we're going to do is um, we're going to draw blood. We're going to run blood tests and scans, and we're going to do a CAT scan. We're going to take a picture, and we'll start with there, trying to figure out what this is, what's going on." And he did. He left, and nurse came in, and they took me on down to the place where they would do the CAT scan, and they did that. They drew blood and everything that they were going to do, and then they took me back to a little room that you're sitting in, and I was in there waiting and waiting for the doctor, and the doctor finally came back in. It was quite a while. He had gotten the blood test, and he sat down and he told me, he says, "Well, do you want me to give it to you straight?" And back on the hair on the back of my head kind of stood up, and I said, "Well, yes, I do. I want to know what's going on." And he said, "Well," he says, "we looked at the blood test and the CAT scan, and I sent it out to two outside doctors outside the hospital here, to an oncologist and to another doctor. And when he said that, I know what an oncologist is. It's a cancer surgeon, and he said, we all have come to the same conclusion. He says, we're about 99.9% sure that this is a new diagnosis of a new form of cancer. He said it's very aggressive and it needs to be dealt with immediately." He says, I have talked to the oncologist, and he's opened up his schedule on Monday to see you, because you cannot put this off. It's very aggressive. It's growing, and it's impeding and pushing on your airway, and that's the problem that you're having with breathing and swallowing. And I said, okay, kind of in a little shock. They gave me, of course, all these medical cocktails. They gave you steroids and antibiotics and everything else in the world. He says, there's always a chance it could be an infection, but we believe that it's cancer based on the diagnosis of the blood, because blood shows up, or cancer shows up in your bloodstream a lot different than just an infection. And he said, you need to go see the doctor on Monday. Do not push it off. Don't wait. You need to go. And I said, okay. He gave me the oncologist card, and I checked out. I left and I drove home. And on the way home, I was trying to decide, how am I going to tell my wife about this? Um, and I was kind of a little jokester, and I always used to say, things, oh, I'm dying when I had a flu, or a cold or something, man flu. You know how we're big babies sometimes, but do it in a joking manner with her. But this wasn't something to joke about, and I decided the best way to tell her would be to just give it to her straightforward, be truthful. And I walked in, I pulled into the house driveway, and I walked into the house, and she was standing in the kitchen, around on a little center table we have there. And I walked in, and she said, "Well, what'd they say?" And I said, "Well, the doctor said that it appears that I have a new diagnosis of cancer. He sent it out to a couple other doctors, and they said that I needed to go see this oncologist on Monday." And she looked at me and she said, "That's nothing to joke about." She thought I was trying to be a prankster at the time. I used to pull crazy stuff like this. And I said, "I'm not joking." And I gave her the card, and she looked at me and she goes, "Well, okay, well, all right, we just have to deal with it, and we'll just do what we have to do. We'll make sure we make that appointment on Monday." And she was trying to absorb everything as well. So we started making plans that on Monday that we would make sure that we would get there to see the oncologist. And we went about everything else, and we were running around and doing things. But on Friday, I was having extreme difficulty breathing. I could not even swallow water. I couldn't chew up. I tried to chew something, a fish sandwich we had gotten, and I was going to eat because I was hungry, and I couldn't swallow it. And then I tried to take a sip of soda, Diet Coke that I had gotten, and I couldn't even swallow it. And I was having problems breathing, and I was getting dizzy and blurry vision, and my wife and I both agreed. She says, "We're going to the emergency room right now. We're not waiting until Monday." This was Friday. I said, "Well, you're going to have to drive because I don't trust myself to drive." I didn't. Everything was blurry, and I was dizzy, and I just wasn't going to get behind the wheel. And she says, "Not a problem. Let's go." So we got in the car and we drove downtown Fort Worth. She wanted to take me to a major hospital, not a standalone emergency room, and because we felt it was pretty serious. So she drove down. We got to the hospital, and I told her, "So you drop me off at the emergency room entrance, go park the car, and I'll meet you inside." And she did. I walked through the emergency room, and when I walked through the door, it was Friday night in a major metropolitan city, Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas, about 6:30 at night. And when I walked in, there was like a line all the way to the door. It was about 14 people standing in line to check in at the window for the emergency room. And I'm going, "Well, I'm going to be here a while." And I got in line, and I'm standing there, and of course I'm just wobbling. I mean, I really was having trouble breathing. Um, and it turned out that if your oxygen level gets below 90, you can measure with these little things you put in your finger. You need to get to the emergency room immediately. Well, mine was already at about 87, I found out. So we were in the right spot, but I stood in this line, and the nurse behind the window kind of leaned over to the right, and she looked at me. She says, "Are you okay?" And of course, I wasn't talking as well as I am now. I said, "Not really." I says, I'm having a really hard time breathing, and I was having a hard time talking. So I don't know if feel like I may pass out. I don't know. And she goes, "You go back immediately." And she hit a button, And the door that they have sliding doors that keep everybody out where you go meet the doctors opened. And she said, go right now. She didn't even check me yet. Took me right around the back. I went into the back, and by the time I got through the doors, the doctor was already there. So she apparently assessed the situation and hit a button, told the doctor to get there too. And of course, all these people, I'm going right by there. I could just imagine what they're thinking. I've been waiting here for hours, and who's this clown, man? He gets to get to go right back, And I'm going, I didn't care. I just went into the back. I just wanted to get back there. And of course, the doctor met me there, and we went over to a little exam room, and he pulled the green curtains back, and he sat me down, and they put little oxygen tubes up my nose, and they came out to do another CAT scan, a little portable one. They come out and take pictures, and he was feeling and everything else. And of course, they drew my blood again, and they were measuring the oxygen through the little things in my fingers. And the doctor decided that he was going to intubate me. That means they were going to put an oral intubation tube down my throat so that they could get oxygen into me, because the oxygen through my nose still wasn't getting in there the way it was supposed to be. My oxygen level was really low. Well, he started taking me back over to the part where the room where they were going to intubate me. And of course, my wife just came in and met us right there. And he explained to her really quick what was happening, that they were going to intubate me. And of course, my wife said, absolutely, do whatever you need to do. And they put me in there. Of course, they put me to sleep. They put the tube down my throat. It wasn't going to go down there without it, for sure. And they intubated me. They put an oxygen tube in, and they admitted me to the intensive care unit immediately. Now, I didn't go up immediately. I laid down there with the oxygen getting in, which was good because it was able to get oxygen back into me. But the room they had it prepared, and they didn't get me up to the room until about midnight. And now I know that from reading the medical records and, of course, talking to my wife and doctors and stuff afterwards, because I was asleep. I was in this, they put me under to put the tube in. Well, they took me up there. I laid up in there, and they had, me sedated, and I was up in the ICU, and the 19th, which was a Sunday, the doctor came, my sedation went down. I was aware of everything going on. I just couldn't talk. I had this tube down my throat and everything else. But I was feeling pretty good. I mean, when you don't get oxygen and then all of a sudden you get oxygen, you're one happy camper. There's no question. And the doctor came in, with my wife, and she looked at all the charts and was looking at the machines and seeing my oxygen level, and everything was up really well. And she said, well, let's see how he does without the intubation tube. Let's see if he can breathe on his own. So she was going to take the tube out. And of course, she asked my wife to leave the room while she did that, because you never know what's going to happen. And she did. And she extubated the tube. She took it out, and it went well. She took it out, and my wife came back in. And of course, I'm feeling good now because I don't have this tube down my throat. I can talk. I can breathe. I'm getting oxygen. I'm feeling great, except I had this large mass on my neck of cancer that they said I had. And I'm thinking, well, they can fix cancer. They can cure that. But with no oxygen, you can only think about one thing, and that's trying to get oxygen in there. So I'm joking with my wife and the doctor stayed in there with my wife, as the medical record state, about 30 to 35 minutes. She stayed in there observing me, watching to make sure everything was going to be okay. And the doctor and my wife left and went out by the nurse's station out there, and they were going to talk, I guess, about me and whatever was going on. I'm poking her. I'm thinking, I'm going to get out of here. This is a great deal. And they left me in there. Of course, they had taken everything off, so I didn't have anything hooked up to me. And I'm doing good. I'm breathing. Okay, this is great. And the medical records say they were gone about 35 to 40 minutes. And in that 35 to 40 minutes, what happened was that mass rolled over my airway, and I suffocated to death. Stopped breathing, my heart stopped, I flatlined. I didn't just have a heart attack, I didn't just gasp for air. I died. I was dead. There was nothing. They didn't know it because they were out there. And they don't know exactly when that happened, that rolled over. But when we talk about how long I was without oxygen, that was from the moment that they came and recognized it. So we can make sure that it was recorded, because the other would be speculation. And my wife came in, and she's the one that discovered me. And she looked, and all she saw was me just blue. And she ran out to the door again and hollered, "He's blue, he's blue, come quick, come quick." Well, the doctor ran into the ICU and recognized what was happening. Sure enough, my heart had stopped. I was flatlined. They called it cardiac arrest. There's nothing. I was not breathing. There's nothing there. I was dead. Of course, they hit the code blue button, and everybody in the world came out. I mean, doctors, nurses, everybody. They chased my wife out, and they immediately started. Very, very large male nurse started doing heart compressions or chest compressions to try and get my heart going. And of course, they're trying to get the intubation tube back down through to get me oxygen, and they couldn't get that. And the reason they couldn't get it was because that mass was over there, and they kept hitting the mass, and it was cutting that, and it was just, it was a mess what they were trying to do. Of course, the compressions they were doing were trying to get my heart going. And afterwards, I asked them, most people don't get to talk to the doctors after you die, but I did. And I asked them, why did you not just use those paddles that they zap everybody with? Why did you just continue with that? Breaking my ribs. I mean, my ribs didn't just break like this. They split them and broke them, and they were over the top like this. I mean, of course, at that time, I weighed 285 pounds. I was a pretty good sized boy, and he was doing some work on those ribs. He had to get to that hard. He was pushing stuff out of there. I told people his name was Ollie, and I said Ollie looked like he was in a fight for I won't beat Frazier or something. I don't know. He was doing some rib breaking. Trying to get my heart going. But he wasn't doing it to break my ribs. He was doing it to get the heart going. Well, they couldn't get it going. Obviously, it was 15 minutes before they were able to even get a heartbeat. The reason they could not use the paddles, by the way, as they explained to me, was you have to have some type of a rhythm, an arrhythmia or something that they can stimulate to get back into rhythm. I had nothing to stimulate. They had to get my heart to the point where it would have some type of a beat or a rhythm. That's how far I was going. So they didn't use the paddles. Well, they continued. But when I died, I left my body. And I was hovering above the ICU, watching all this go on, watching everybody coming in, watching what they were doing, observing everything, and fully aware, hearing everything they said, everything that was going on. And I'm going, this is not good. It's a very strange feeling when you're looking down at you laying there dead, and people crawling all over, trying to get oxygen in and beating on your chest, and it's a very strange thing to see. And I remember floating out to the hall just outside the room, looking down upon my wife, and she was doubled over, just crying what I call crocodile tears. It was like a river. Her tears in front of her, if you took a bottle of water and poured it on the floor, that's what it would look like. And it was just broke my heart. And I'm in my mind, I'm saying, it's okay, sweetie, it's okay, it's going to be okay. And of course, she couldn't hear me. She didn't know I was in there. All she knew was her husband was in there dead, and everybody in the world seemed like was in there beating on him, pulling on him, trying to bring him back. And I floated back in. And I remember looking down at this, and then that fast, I was standing in heaven. I don't mean in a vision, and I don't mean just looking. I didn't see lights and tunnels and angels. I didn't go through it. I was there instantly. And I remember standing there going like, wow. The feeling that I had was incredible. It's a feeling of love and peace that you cannot describe. And it just permeates you. I mean, it just filled every part of me. And it's just the most wonderful feeling I've ever felt. You know, you know when people love you and they're happy to see you. It wasn't anything like that. It literally filled me. And the peace. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And then I'm looking around and I'm looking at the trees and the flowers and I look over here and there's what I call the inner courtyard. You've seen these big mansions that have like mazes of shrubbery and benches and trees and everything else. Well, this is what I call the inner courtyard. There's a river of life was flowing down through it, and the trees and the bushes and oh, it was just unbelievable, and the flowers. And then I'm looking back over here, and I'm looking at the trees and I'm just taking everything in. It was just like I'm just a sensory overload. And I'm looking up and I'm looking up at these trees and I'm looking up. And I'm going, wow, they're so incredible, the magnificent and the beauty and the colors, and the colors pop. The leaves, the green, are in greens that we don't even have here. And the colors weren't just bright, they were just like the fluorescent. They just like in CinemaScope times 10. They were just there, just beautiful. And I tell people we have 43 oak trees in our backyard, which we do. Now, comparing the trees in our backyard, and they look, I thought they were pretty cool. Comparing those to the trees in heaven, our trees are little dying twigs. When I look at our trees, it's like, okay, when I look at trees, I like this. I mean, it's just towering, just unbelievable. And then I'm noticing the flowers, and their flowers. Now, there's flowers that I had never even seen. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have them here. There's a lot of things on earth that I haven't seen, a lot of flowers I haven't seen, some of the tropical flowers and stuff, but I've seen a lot. But I have seen a lot of flowers here on earth, and they're beautiful. But the flowers in heaven are beyond anything. And the colors, and there literally are colors that we don't even have on the spectrum of the color scale here. We've never seen them before. Not only are they just bright and vibrant, and there are colors that we do have here, but all the colors just, it's like you just can't even imagine. And they just pop. They're just there. They're just in it. It's just beauty beyond beauty, that beyond beauty. And I'm looking at all this and I'm going, wow. And then you become aware of things. Well, I didn't die from cancer. I died from suffocation, and that's lack of air. And I'm realizing now I'm breathing and I'm breathing in the air, and it's air like not what you've ever experienced. It's the most beautiful, fragrant smelling air that you can imagine. You know how sometimes people like the smell of fresh cut grass or clones or what different things that we make to enhance the air smell. Well, the air in heaven is a incredible smell that you just can't even imagine. It's the most fragrant, but it's not sweet, it's not overpowering, it's not like perfume, it's just absolutely the most freshest, most beautiful, wonderful air that you can almost taste. And it's filled with love. It's just like it permeates everything is. And the reason for that is because in heaven there is every tree, every plant, every rock, everything gives it off its own little individual scent. And when combined, that's what makes up the fragrance of the air that we breathe. And it's just wonderful. And then I started recognizing or realizing that there is a music, a song of music going on in the background. It's like white noise. It's in the background. It's not like very loud. It doesn't overpower you talking or anything like that. It's just there. Kind of like if you have a fan above you that's going, you don't really notice it. It's just there. It fills in the back because of the air. If you stop and you listen, you'll hear it. But this is not like that. It's continuous, and it's the most beautiful music and sound, and it's praising Jesus continuously. Now, where that's coming from was every plant, every tree, every rock, everything, all of nature gives off its own little, what I call, melodic tone. And they're all individual to the specific things that they are. And they combine together. And that's what makes up this orchestral, singing, beautiful music beyond anything I've ever heard. And it's praising Jesus continuously. So when people say about Jesus will be praised continuously, that's true. It's literal. And it's done by all of everybody in nature that gives off their sound that does that. And it's incredible to experience and to hear it. It's just beyond anything you can imagine. And I'm standing there and I'm taking in the beauty of everything and the smell and the music. And I'm looking around and I noticed again the inner courtyard. In the inner courtyard was a figure over there, kind of working, and of course off in the far distance was a silhouette of a figure that was kind of light. There was light and the silhouette of a man there. But I'm looking at this one, and I'm looking and I recognized. I said, that looks like my dad. Now, my dad died in 2011. He died at 92, ironic, from throat cancer. But he died from the cancer. It ate him up. And cancer is not, it's a cruel, cruel disease. It just destroys you. And it eats you down to where it's just horrible. And I remember my dad at that. It was a sad, horrible sight. But when I looked at him here, he wasn't 92, and he looked to be about 35, 38 years old. My dad, when he was in his prime, I remembered him from my youth of what he was like, and that's what he looked like. He wasn't the man that I saw with cancer, died of cancer. He wasn't the old 92-year-old, that was shriveled, and he was vibrant. He was healthy. He was like, wow. And I'm thinking it's my dad because I sure remember him. And I said, well, I'm walking over there. I walked over there to meet him. And when I walked over there and I walked up to him, my dad and I had this little kind of funny thing that we used to do. I was in the military and government service a lot and been in a few wars. And, I occasionally I get shot or in a plane blown up. Stuff happens. And I remember when something serious would happen, my dad would always show up, whether it was in the hospital, he'd show up and he'd walk in and he would kind of break a very tense situation. And he would say, well, son, you did it now, didn't you? And that was the way he would open. It was kind of not being mean or judgmental. He was just doing it to break the ice. It was his way of doing it. And I'd go, Dad, I didn't do anything. I got shot, or I was in a plane shot down, or something, whatever. He goes, I know. But it was his way of lightening the situation. And then we would talk and visit and everything. Well, when I approached him and I looked at him, I'm still in awe of everything. And I kind of went questioning him. I went, Dad? Like, you're not sure yet, And he goes, yes, son. He says, it's me. He says, well, you really did it now, didn't you, son? And I went like, oh, no, this is my dad for sure. I said, Dad, I didn't do anything. I died. And he goes, I know. And it was his way. Jesus allowed me to talk with him at that particular time. And there's a reason why he did. And later, and I can explain a lot of things that he taught me, but it was like, wow, I'm really here. This is my dad. And Jesus allowed him to do that to let me know for sure it was him. But it was my dad when he was in prime health. He wasn't old anymore. He wasn't decaying from cancer and didn't die. He was vibrant. We talked and about various things and my questions, of course, But while we were talking and everything, and I was glad to see him, no question, but I remember looking over at the light. I kept looking at it and seeing that silhouette. And I finally says, who's that over there? He said, who do you think it is? And I said, Jesus? The question again, he goes, yes. I said, well, how do I get to talk to him? And he goes, well, son, what you do is you walk over there. And as you approach him, you start with your right knee on the ground. And then you start with your left knee on the ground. And if there's a conversation to be had, he'll start it. I went, wow, okay. So I talked to him a little bit more, and I'm going, Dad, I want to go talk to Jesus. He said, okay. So I started to walk over towards Jesus, and that fast. The cotton picking doctors down there got my heart started. It took them 15 minutes, but they got my heart started. And I was immediately back in my body in the middle of all that chaos and everything going on. Fortunately for me, that didn't last very long, because by the time they got out to talk to my wife and tell my wife that they had gotten my heart started again, out of the ICU room came hollering, we're losing him, he's gone. My heart stopped again. And so that whole time that I was back in there was only for about maybe 30 or 40 seconds. And I died again. Of course, at this point, my wife, when they were out there and they told her, they said, what do you want us to do? And my wife said, you do everything. You don't quit. And the doctors wanted to end the time it out, mark it right then, because it had been 15 minutes minimum with zero oxygen. They knew what would happen, what has happened biologically and physiologically to my brain at that point. The deterioration with no oxygen destroys it, and there's no recovery from that. At best, if you do recover, you're going to be extremely disabled, not be able to talk, walk, do things. Your brain doesn't have the ability to tell your body to do functions depending on what cells that had been destroyed. That's why people that have short instances of oxygen deprivation or brain damage, those cells, once your brain cells are destroyed, they don't recover. And all the memories and functions that were within that you learned are also gone. And that's why people sometimes when they come back or they have brain damage or strokes and it destroys some of the brain cells, they can't talk, they can't walk, they have troubles, they're paralyzed, and because some of those brain cells that control that were done. Well, after 15 minutes, so much is already destroyed, you're not going to be able to do anything. And they knew that. So basically, you would be like a vegetable is what it would amount to. My wife and I have what we call what is a living will. It's a durable health care, durable power of attorney. And in that, it says that if they put me on any type of life support system whatsoever, they cannot take me off of it for 14 days unless she would have agreed. It takes the power out of the doctor's hands and puts it into your loved one's hands so that you can make sure everything is done. Everybody should have one. Okay. I mean, I recommend it highly. Well, knowing that, my wife said, you do everything. You do everything. My lady, she's in my corner, boy. And the doctors, of course, they wanted to end it right then because they knew there was not going to be any hope for too much of any type of life whatsoever after this. Now, the reason that they continued so vigorously to try and continue to resuscitate me was the reason that I died wasn't cancer. It was the doctor messed up. She should have taken an X-ray or a CAT scan to see what was going to happen if they removed that, to see what that mass was going to do. They should have done that, and they would have seen that it was protruding inside in such mass that you shouldn't take that out. They would have to have done something to get that out of there first. But she didn't, and she pulled it out without doing that. And that they were scared at this point about, quite candidly, about malpractice. I mean, they were liable. She caused my death from that. Yes, I had cancer, that supposed cancer, and I had that mass that caused me to do. But what she did is she implemented that to enable me for that to roll over and die, and she shouldn't have done that. So it was a mistake. So they were worried about that. So they're going to be pretty much following every letter of everything that they can do right now to avoid any further complications of what was going on here. So when my wife told them you do everything, they had no choice. They had to continue until it was absolutely feasibly impossible that no way this is going to happen again. Well, they continued on me it was about another 20 minutes. It took them before they could get another heartbeat. But out of the 20 minutes that I died, when I died this time, I immediately went back to heaven. I didn't float. I didn't hover. I was just instantly standing in heaven. And this time I'm standing in heaven. And over to the left, I could see the inner courtyard still was there, but I was over in a little different position over here. And I'm still looking at the trees and the flowers and a huge pasture here and just the same familiar smell, the air, the sounds, the feeling of love. It just permeates you. And I'm starting to realize, of course, I'm asking myself more questions, but I learned that feeling, that love that you're feeling, that peace, that calm, it doesn't just happen by accident. You see, I also realized that there's no sun up there. Like we have a sun up there that gives us light, or you have street lights or stuff like that that lights it up. But none of that was there. Yet it's light. And I'm going, wow. What that was, as I learned, was we always hear Jesus is the light. That's literal. In heaven, Jesus lights up all of heaven and everything in it with his light. And it permeates everything in every place. There's no night and day in heaven. There's just all day. There's no nighttime. So, but it's his light that actually lights it. And in his light, That light carries his love and his peace. And that is what permeates you. That's what engulfs you. And the air, as you breathe it in, and it's the light that it enters in and it goes through and absorbs in your body, that's what gives you that continuous feeling of love and peace and calm. That's what it's from. It's in the presence of his and being engulfed with his presence and light and peace as he gives it to us. And it just is an unbelievable feeling. And I'm sitting there just feeling like this warmest hug and embrace of I'm back home. The peace. Down here on earth is chaos. There was insanity down there, what was going on. But I'm hearing this and not in that. I'm not embracing. I'm not even remembering that right now. I'm just, wow. It's just incredible. And I remember looking across the field and I see two horses, three little dogs. Two horses are trotting over towards me. Three little dogs running in their little short legs as fast as they could to keep up. And they're coming up to me. Now, my wife and I had two horses and had them since they were little the whole time. And they were part of the family. They were pets, they were horses. They weren't, they were just incredible. And one horse was named Shakush. We called him Shock. He was a white Arabian. And he had a personality of a playful clown. He thought he was a dog. I mean, he and my wife would play in the arena. They would play out in the field, and you know how little dogs jump and back up, and they jump and they back up. Well, that's what this horse would do. Except this horse is a lot bigger. My wife had to be careful because that horse could hurt. But they would just play, and they would chase, and it was just funny. You'd chase, and he'd run, and stop, and she'd chase the horse would chase her, and it was just the cutest thing ever. And I recognized him now. Shock and the other horse was Nugget, but we had to have them both put down because of age. One at 32 and one at I think it's 29 because of illness and sickness and dementia and stuff. So we had to have them put down. But when I saw them, they were in perfect health again. I mean, they were just perfect. Didn't have saddle sway or any marks in the saddle or their veins. They were just gorgeous. Oh, I mean, just absolutely beautiful. And I looked at the other one, Nugget, and I recognized Nugget as well. Now, Nugget was a buckskin quarter horse, and she was totally the opposite. She was gorgeous, number one, and she just had the personality of, I'm so pretty. Please, you may pet me. You can comb my mane. It was just like, oh, I'm pretty and I know it. She's just a sweet girl, just totally the opposite of the other one. But like Nugget was just like Shock in perfect health again. Only this time I got to see Nugget and Shock in the most beautiful. Oh, they were just incredible. And I recognized them both. I go like, wow. And then the three little dogs, I recognized two of them. The third one, I didn't know that dog. I'd never seen that dog before in my life. I thought maybe it must be a hanger-on or something because I recognized the two little dogs. One dog was Fudge 1. The other dog was Fudge 2. Now, we have Fudge 3 at our house right now. He's fine. He's sweeter than any piece of fudge. We name all of our dogs Fudge, so we never got the name wrong. So Fudge 1 and Fudge 2 are there in heaven, and like the horses, they were just perfect health too. Not the way they were when we had to have them put down. And we had them put down because of old age and dementia as well. But now they're in perfect health. Now, the third dog, I did not know. I did find out later who and what that little dog was doing there. My wife had a dog before I even met her. I mean, 40 years ago. I mean, 35. I mean, just I didn't even know my wife. And that little dog's name was Annie. And I was at home and I'm telling my wife about everything. You can imagine I'm going to tell my wife about everything. Um, and she says, just a minute. I described the little dog to her. And he went in and dug out an old album, a little tiny photo. I'm giving my age. We used to have little tiny ones like this, flipping little pictures, Polaroid pictures and stuff. Not like we have today. But she brought a picture and she says, does this look like the dog? And I said, yeah, that was the dog. She goes, that was my dog. That dog has a name. It's called Annie. And she was the sweetest little dog, but I had to have her put down because of illness and disease. Before I even met you, she had that dog before I even knew her. I had never seen that dog, but that's who that dog was. That was Annie. She's still part of that family. You see, your pets, I'm not talking about spiders and snakes and people, what people think they're going to call pets. The ones that God gives you that actually you learn to love and that they're part of your family. I mean, that they are. It's like kids sometimes. Sometimes better than kids, they behave better. But he said, I'll never take a gift away that I gave you. That's why they're there. So when you get to heaven, your pets are in heaven. They will see you again. You will be with them in heaven. And another thing happened. I'm sitting there, and of course, they came trotting across to me. There, I'm thinking, but in heaven, God has made a way that you can communicate with your pets. I don't mean like, hello, my name's Mr. Ed the Talking Horse. I mean, you can communicate. You can hold a conversation. You know exactly what they're saying and what you're saying or thinking. It's not like you're speaking horse language or horseanese or whinnying or anything like that, but you can communicate like that mentally with a full conversation with them. So if you've ever wondered what your horses or your dogs or your pets or your cats or whatever your pets are thinking, when you get to heaven, you'll know. You'll be able to actually talk to them. And if you look at your pets now, they know more about us and understand us a lot better than we do them because they learn all these words. We just don't learn theirs. But in heaven, they will finally have to get a conversation with you as well. So I'm sitting there. I try not to have this conversation in a restaurant because if there's somebody in the booth next to us and I'm standing talking about having a conversation, talking with my pets in heaven, and then we're talking back and forth, they're going to probably go, honey, we, we, we might want to think about finishing up pretty quick here. I don't know what this guy's talking about, talking to horses and dogs, and they're talking back. And he's doing this in heaven while he's dead, but he looks pretty alive to me. Without explanation and something to understand what I'm talking about there. You can take that out of context real quick. Maybe have people come through with a few straitjackets. But it is amazing. I'm standing there talking to my horses and our dogs, and I'm going like, it was the coolest thing. Well, it almost was the coolest thing. The coolest thing was later on when I was in heaven and Jesus was showing me some places where we were going to live and stuff. And the horses came up and Jesus and I were sitting there by the horses and he was actually petting Shock's nose and horses nuzzling Jesus. And it was, I'm standing in heaven watching Jesus pet my horse's nose. Do you know how cool that is? It's just, and the horses are loving him just as much as, and Jesus loves them just as much as he does everything and everybody else. It was what you're going to experience when you get to heaven is beyond things you could even comprehend, beyond even what you can imagine here, and it's so incredible. And it's like wow, you're just like wow. So anyway, I'm sitting there just enjoying talking to the horses, and I look over and I see my dad over in the distance, and I actually saw my mom in the far distance and smiled. I never talked to my mom or approached her, but I, I'm looking at the light where my dad said, "Yes, that was Jesus." I'm going like, I want to talk to Jesus. I want to meet Jesus face to face. And I tell my horses and dog, Shock and Nugget and Fudge, and I said, listen, I, I, I just really am enjoying this, but I really want to go see Jesus. And they understood. I mean, they know who Jesus is too. And I said, I'm going to go over and meet Jesus. And I started walking. And as soon as I started walking, I got about 3 steps. The doctors did it again. Those cat and picking doctors, I'm going like, between him and my wife telling them to keep going, I'm going like, will you people stop this? Please. Oh, this is incredible. They got my heart going again, and I'm immediately back into my body. Only this time it's total chaos. At this point in time, it'd been another 20 minutes. So at this point, it'd been 35 minutes with 0 oxygen, except they kept trying to get my heart going. Well, they did get it going. It took them about 20 more minutes of rib breaking and compressions, rib breaking and compressions. That poor Ollie had to be so tired that night. I mean, he didn't have to go to the gym and work out. I can promise you that. And of course, at this point, what they had done was they were still trying to get the air down in there, and they realized they couldn't get that tube down in there because that mass was there. So they decided they had to do a tracheotomy. And of course, they did that while Ollie's still doing compressions. And of course, a scalpel in a surgeon's hand is incredible. They're good. That scalpel's sharp. And let me tell you, you got some guy who weighs 250 pounds, you're bouncing around the table, and this guy's trying to cut you. It's not a good combination. They did the incision. They cut it a little crooked at an angle, and they cut it a little big. It was about like that. I know there's no scar. I'll get to that. Another miracle. And they ended up cutting it. It was too large for the tracheotomy that they had, and it was the size that you could put a golf ball in. That's the hole that I had in my neck. And they did get that down in there, but then they had the oxygen tube goes down the trach. And that's how they get the air in there once they get the trach in there like that. Well, they put the tube down. They got the trach in. They put the tube down. These are things that happened while I was gone. I got to read this from the medical records. But they put the tube down in there, and they had 100% oxygen trying to pump in there. But I still was getting no oxygen. I was reading no oxygen. And they're trying to get my heart going, but no oxygen was still going in. And they couldn't figure out why this thing, they just in the everything on the thing, it's 100%, but what it was when they put that tube down in there, see, they had inadvertently nicked and cut and things, and I ended up bleeding out into my lungs. And when they put the tube down in there, what was happening is it was filling up with blood. And the oxygen couldn't get through the blood. And couldn't get to the membranes of the wall anyway, because the walls of your lung have these little things, like little thin membranes, and they have little fibers on them. And as you breathe oxygen in, it's absorbed through those small membranes and fibers that go into your bloodstream, and then it's your heart pumping, then pumps that blood throughout your body, and then your body then is able to get oxygen from the blood. Well, a couple of problems there. One, they couldn't get my heart pumping. So that's a big problem. The other problem is they couldn't get anything to this membrane wall because I filled up. They ended up having to drill a hole in my side, and they drained out a liter bottle. The big liter bottles full of Pepsi you get? They filled that up with blood and fluids out of my lung that they had to drain out. And then the other problem that they had was the walls now were lined with coagulating blood, and they had to end up scraping all of that out so that oxygen, when they finally would get it in, that could get to the walls. Basically, what they were doing is they knew I was dead. They were, experimenting on me, trying out new things to try and work so they can maybe do it for the future, I guess. I don't know. But they were trying everything. Boy, my wife wouldn't let them quit, I'm going to tell you. So when they pulled that tube out, that's when they found out that it was full of blood, because the oxygen was pushing 100% that way, and all that blood that had been in that tube sprayed everywhere and got everybody. My wife told me that after they had finally taken me out of there over to surgery and stuff, she glanced in there and she said it looked like a butcher shop. Now, I'm not saying this to be gory. I'm saying this and explaining what happened because I was commanded to do so when I came back. Jesus told me, I will command you. When he sent me back, I'm jumping ahead, he commanded me that I would tell and explain what happened, what I died from, how I died, and what was done, and everything else, so that people would know. That's part of the miracle that he did. And I'll get to that in a minute. But it sprayed everybody. Now, later on, I was giving a talk at the Gathering Church here in Brock, Texas. And afterwards, people will come up and, talk and ask questions. And, this one lady came up and she was standing over here. And I looked at her and I went, Grace. And she looked at me and goes, how do you know me? I said, Grace, you were the nurse that was there in the ICU with me the day that I died. And then she looked at me and go like, how do you know that? I said, you were the one crawling under the table, remember? And you got all, and with the tubes and everything. She goes, I said, yeah, I was hovering to watch. I remembered everything, Grace. I remember everything you said, everything. And she goes, oh, and it like hit her because they won't even tell you the names of the doctors and nurses that were in there because they don't want people going after them, especially in a situation like that. Oh, you killed me. You did this. Why didn't you do this? There's a lot of reasons for that. But she couldn't hide it because I saw it when I was hovering. And I saw all the doctors. I saw everybody do it. I knew who did the compressions. And when he walked into my room later, when I was in the other hospital part after I had come back, and he walked in my room, and I said, you're the guy that broke my ribs. And he goes, well, I didn't mean I wasn't mad. He's going, and I explained to him, and they were shocked then too. It's things of reality came to them. Wow, this had to be real because there's no way this man could know this. Even the doctor, there's no way that you could know what I said and what I did. There's no way there's no humanly way that you can know that. I said, well, I didn't say it was human. I just told you what I saw. Okay. So anyway, they got my heart started again. And I'm back in there. And fortunately for me, I don't think you'll find too many people that says, thank God I died again. It was only a matter of a few seconds, but I died again. And again, I was immediately back in heaven. The body down there has been dead down earth time for about 35 minutes now, so it's in pretty bad shape, but they're still going to work trying to do everything they could. And I commend them. When I talked to the doctors afterwards.
And this third time you're dying.
Yeah, this is the third time I died now. So now I died, and immediately I'm back in heaven again. Same familiar hug, the smells, the peace, and just you can't describe it. I can close my eyes and feel it and see it. It's impossible to describe that feeling and the smells and just the beauty of everything. I'm going, I run back home. And I'm standing this time outside the inner courtyard. And I'm looking and I'm seeing that light, and I am determined. I am going to see and meet Jesus. So I start walking, and of course I'm walking, and I stop and I kind of look around because those doctors got priors. Okay, every time I try to get towards Jesus, those cotton picking doctors, that they seem to get my heart started again. So I'm not real pleased with them right now. Nothing. Keep walking.
So you were aware in heaven that the doctors could bring you back, make you come back to earth without seeing Jesus?
Yeah, yeah. First time I went back, I never got to see him. They got my heart going. I died again. Yeah, I went back to heaven. I'm up in heaven now another 20 minutes. Earth time. Heaven has no time. Okay? Understand that. So a lot happens in heaven in a little bit of time here because you can't relate the two. 20 minutes, their time. They got my heart started. I'm back on earth again, not in heaven. I'm gone. I still didn't get to see Jesus. Third time I died, I'm back in heaven, and this time I'm standing outside the inner courtyard, and I'm looking at Jesus, and I'm determined. I'm here. I want to go see him. I don't know how long I'm going to be here because these doctors got priors. My wife is down there telling them to do everything that you can. She's not giving up. The doctors are doing what she says, and I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah, and I just didn't know how long I was going to be there because they have priors. Well, I'm going to walk over and see Jesus again. So I get over there and I walk up, and I walk and I walk, and okay, sure enough, they didn't do anything. They didn't give me back. And as I approached Jesus, you see, well, he was wrong about me. He was telling me probably what happened to him. So he wasn't wrong in a sense. But my dad, remember, told me that when you approach Jesus, I would start with your right knee on the ground and then your left knee on the ground. And if there's a conversation to be had, he'll start it. I'm going, I remember that, Dad. Okay. As I approached Jesus, my dad was absolutely none of that happened. I didn't start with my right knee on the ground and my left knee on the ground. I just fell full flat, face down, prostate into the ground, crying like a little baby, sobbing. It was just beyond the right knee. My knees never hit the ground. They went straight past those, straight face down. Now, I know there's no tears in heaven. But those are no tears of sorrow. There are tears of joy. That's emotion and love coming out of humbleness, humility. Just grab those you will have. They're not sad. That's emotion overflowing. But I'm laying there, and Jesus got up and he walked over to me and he bent down and he says, "Give me your hand." And he grabbed my hand. He says, "Stand. It's going to be okay." And he helped me to my feet and he wiped my tears. And he said, "We've much to walk and talk about." Now, at that point, you don't probably would think that I'd have nothing to say, but I didn't. My personality and makeup at that time was, although it was being changed drastically. I still was me, and mine is still somewhat back here on earth, my thought processes. But the first thing out of my mouth to Jesus was, "Can I go back? I need to comfort Carol." I saw Carol when I was first died and I was hovering. I saw what it was doing to her, and it was breaking my heart. I just wanted her to be okay. I knew what she was going through. I knew what she was going to be going through, and I wanted to comfort her. And that's what came out of my mouth. Can I go back? I need to comfort Carol. Jesus didn't address that. It just like straight on over, I guess. Well, okay, I'm not going to push the issue here. I'm not that stupid. He says, "Come, we need to walk and talk. You've much to learn." I'm going, okay, I'm listening. We should listen to him more, but we don't, unfortunately, here. We do in heaven, but it's a whole different situation. So Jesus and I started walking through heaven, and we walked through, and we would go through, and he would show me, and he would explain this and explain that, and you know, all the different things. And he showed me where I was going to live and what an abode, what a mansion was. A mansion is, as he explained to me, not a mansion like we think it's going to be. These big 30-room things and gold pillars and servants and everything else. First, you don't have servants in heaven, but we have an idea of what a mansion is here. We look at it. But when he put the word mansion in, he's describing what is the perfect abode, perfect place for you to live, that are your desires, your requirements. We all have things. We have different tastes in clothing. We have different tastes in houses. We have different things because our makeup, we know what we like. This is more appealing to us, this. Well, Jesus knows our inner thoughts, and he's prepared a mansion that, or a house, an abode that equals and surpasses what your most wondrous desire of it, your home to be. And that's what your mansion is. Now, he says some people like living in apartments, buildings, in high rises, and some people like living in small city dwellings, close in cities. So, that type of thing. Other people like to be out in the country, and everybody has different tastes. See, we're all still individuals in heaven. We're not all robots. And if he treated everybody the exact same, he would be showing favoritism to somebody over somebody else. And that's not what heaven is like. You see, it's each has their own desires fulfilled. And that's what your home looks like. So he was showing me on my home and stuff like that, going through little things like this. And then he said he's going to teach me and give me a complete lesson and teaching of everything.
Before you delve into this, can you give us any details you saw as it relates to these homes that you saw?
He showed me the model home, shall we say. So yes, he showed me the homes and he showed me the sites. He explained for example, your home, our home, the one that I'm going to live in, is out in the country. We have one out in the country now. I live on a golf course, actually. I don't get to play golf anymore. I just get to do this, which is a whole lot more fun. Is go around the world talking to people. But our house was absolutely beautiful. I mean, it is a single story, and it was in an area we had pasture in the back of the horses were and so on. Now, our house is a lot different than what is here. You don't have doors that you have to close because number one, you don't have to close the door. No, you're not gonna have intruders. You don't have to worry about anything, and there's no insects and bugs that are going to fly in, and you don't have to worry about all that. And you have windows and that are made out of pure crystal rocks that you can see through them perfect, and then they give prisms and stuff like that to come through the window. It's really cool. The walls and stuff are made out of materials, all natural materials, commensurate. Like I have wood behind me, but we have different types of woods, and you have like countertops. How you have granite countertops, and you see all the different stone colors in there. Well, there it's made up of that, but it's made up of all the different gemstones and everything with gold and maybe rubies or stuff in it. Those are mixed into it because the value of those are what's here. There is for beauty. It's not for impressing or for wealth. It's just there, and it's made out of just materials just beyond and beautiful. The structuring is good. Of course, you don't have to worry about air conditioning and fans and circulation like that because the air is all perfect. It's just incredible. You have areas that you will eat and prepare food. You will eat. He explained that to me and showed me that. Here we eat different things. Different parts of the world eat different things. Some are vegetarian, some are not. We eat meat. Some won't eat shrimp and fish or steak, and you don't all that. We eat things here that we like: chicken, pizza, steak, whatever. You will be able to eat everything that you have here you can have in heaven. The difference is this: it's not a dead animal. It's not a dead chicken. It's not a dead cow. It's not a dead plant. None of that. No, no, no. That's not what it is. See, he provides it in the form of manna. And it's not made up of anything that died. And that manna is made the same texture, taste, and you can prepare it the same way as you do your food here. But the difference is that all of those things, the spices and everything that you do to utilize are manna that he provides through various marketplaces that go, because everybody has a job that they enjoy doing. You don't have to pay for it, but it's there and you get it. Everybody does something different. So you go to the market and you get it and you prepare it exactly the way you want. Only it's the best steak you ever had or the best chicken you ever had. And when you eat it, you don't eat it, and you don't eat in heaven to sustain your body. Here we eat to sustain our body. In heaven, you don't. You don't need to do that because it is truly a heavenly body. So as you eat for enjoyment, pleasure, to share, to fellowship with others. That's why he said he's going to have a feast for everybody. You can have Jesus over to your house for dinner. That's what's so cool. Now you go, well, that's a lot of people. How's he going to do that? Well, he's omnipresent. He can be everywhere at once. You've got to get out of your realm of here and get your head into heavens, God's realm. Here, yeah, we couldn't, but in heaven, yes, that's very possible. Now, he's not there continuously, just like your kids aren't there continuously. You know what I'm talking about. But you can have him over, prepare a meal for him. You can have everything that you have here. If you want, he created wine when he was here. You can have wine, but it's not going to be alcoholic. It's not going to do anything. You're not going to get drunk on it, but you would enjoy the taste of it to go with it, because eating is a celebration. It's a time of fellowship. That's when you eat because you enjoy it. It's not to sustain you. Another thing that comes from that is, in heaven, well, do we have to go to the bathroom? No. Because you do that here because your body has to dispose of waste that you've taken into food to sustain. That dissipates back out into the energy. Nothing fills you up. You have fun. You enjoy it, but there's no waste, so you don't have to worry about that.
Question about the house, your house that you saw in heaven. Was this house complete, or was it still being built, or more things still being added to it?
No, it was absolutely total finish. I could have walked in and moved in that day. And had I not come back, I would have. No, it's right there. You don't have to wait for it to get built. None of that. When we have a house built, we want this, we want that, and you got to have it built, and this and this and this. And well, I don't like. Let me look and let me pick out the color. You see, Jesus knows every thought you have, every inner thought, every desire. You might not even know it, but he knows it. And that's what he prepares the house from what your inner thoughts and desires are, because he knows it will please you. And boy, I'm going to tell you, we have a nice house now and we enjoy it. But it doesn't look the same as when I saw my heavenly home. And it truly is. I can think of things from that because I did see it, that I would like to do mine, but I don't know how I could afford it. I mean, but he knows and he knew, and that's why he prepared it. And likewise, and I saw dwellings, high rises in cities and, clean, not slums and stuff like that. And small towns with buildings and modest homes that people like, nicer than what they have here. But they like that neighbor things that they go in and that's what they like.
Do you think that when your work for the Lord is finally over here and it's all said and done, do you think there might be more rewards that have to do with more things added to the house?
No more rewards, more special to the house because of something you did here. He started my education from, as I explained to you before, by taking me outside of time and space, back to the beginning when there was nothing. And he took me there and he says, now, do you see there's just black? I go, yes. Quite candidly, it was a little scary. But he says, that is not absent anything. It's not absent light. It's not absent anything. It is nothing. Absolute nothing. He says, now, nothing is what I created everything from. Everything. And I'm going to show you how. And in our next talk, we will go through from creation, and we'll start there and we'll continue on through, perhaps like a little series for you about everything he taught me. But he literally showed me creation. I watched it from nothing to everything. And he explained everything from creation all the way through to the new heavens and the new earth and everything in between. And that's where he taught me everything. And I saw everything. And that's what I share with people. But we went through all this education and we ended up, and we were sitting back at the inner courtyard. And Jesus was sitting on my right, and I was sitting here. And it was just a serene setting. Being back in heaven instead of being outside of time and space was incredible, because I had the same familiar smells and the hug and the surroundings of the river of life was flowing down through the inner courtyard, and the trees, and it's just the beauty as the flowers is just unbelievable. And Jesus started the conversation. And he said, Robert, I heard you when you first came here before me, and you asked if you could go back, and you said you wanted to go back so that you could comfort and care for Carol. He said, I heard you, but I couldn't send you back. You see, your brain has been destroyed, your body has been destroyed and ravished. He said, and if I were to send you back in that state, he says, you wouldn't be able to comfort anybody or anything. He says, therefore, I couldn't send you back. He says, if I did, you would only be a burden. Even when he was telling me this, he didn't call me a vegetable. He was still kind in what he said. He said, you would just be self-contained in a body that would continue to decay. And eventually you would end up back here anyway. He said, therefore, I could not send you back like that. Now, you know that you can remain here in heaven and you will be perfectly fine. You won't know what's happening to Carol and you won't be able to interfere and all that, but you will be fine. However, he said, I could, and I would send you back with some caveats. He said, first, I would send you back with a miracle that nobody could deny. Not the doctors, not the scientists, nobody. He says, and then I will restore you a new brain, new heart, new liver, new kidney. Everything will be new, as if nothing had ever happened to you, as if you had never died, as if you had never been sick. And I will restore every memory of your entire life into that brain. And I will restore everything that you learned from me, everything you experienced here, and everything that I taught you with full total recall. And then I will command you to share everything that I taught you about the miracle, about how you died, why I sent you back, and what I did to perform that miracle. And you will share that so that they will know that I am God, that I am alive, and that I do miracles today as I did yesterday, and I will tomorrow. And you will share that with anybody, anywhere, any place, anytime that I put in front of you. And you will answer their questions anytime, any place, anywhere, in front of anybody that I put in front of you. You'll do so in truth and spirit. And by that I mean this: you will not change anything that I told you. You will not give your understanding of it. You will give my understanding of it, and you will not add to it. You will convey it exactly as I told you. Now, you will remember that you cannot convince anybody of anything, and you cannot change anybody of anything, and you cannot save anybody. My word that you convey, my word will convince, my word will convey, and my word can change and save anybody. But it's my word, the living word. You are merely a vessel that will convey it to those that I put in front of you. And then your job is done. My job begins. And my word will hover, and I will work and change, convince. You cannot. You will take rest, as I told you, because it won't be work, because you're not trying to do anything, you're just conveying. He says, now, also, if you choose, and I went like, choose? And I didn't say that, I thought that. If you choose to go back, then the moment that you enter your body, you will feel every discomfort, every ounce of pain, everything that your body's going through until you leave the hospital and from when you entered the hospital. And that includes everything: surgeries, recovery, everything, as if you had no anesthesia. And then he said another if. If you survive that, then I will allow the doctors to continue with the organs that I've restored and the brain being restored, and they will continue to mend your body back to full 100% health, because your muscles and everything else need to be regenerated, and they will do that. But you will feel everything. He said, now it's going to be your choice. And when you choose, know that I'm going to search your heart, your soul, your very essence, and your mind to know that it's going back for the full and absolute right reasons, and you will fulfill and follow this through. Now, you choose, and know that if you choose to stay, you'll never even remember this conversation, and nothing will be held against you. There's nothing, you won't even know about it, and you'll be perfectly fine. If you choose to go back, you know the caveats. You choose. It didn't take me long. I apparently chose to come back, and I must have had the right reasons in my heart, because the next moment I was back in my body, and he didn't lie.
Why do you think that he allowed you to go through the pain when you returned?
I get that same question. Anytime during that period that I was going through the pain, like I went through surgery. They went through the hole through where they put the tracheotomy in to scrape all my lungs. I went through all that surgery and felt everything. And I remember crying out, stop, stop. But nobody could hear me. And he allowed me to go through that for a couple of reasons. One, because he wanted me to understand there's always a price that has to be paid for something major. That's sacrificial. The sacrifice that I was making of going through that was also, through the pain, was to demonstrate to me, not to others, to me, that I could endure anything for and through him and for him. And that as such, he said, you will go forth and you will speak with confidence, because you can and you will be put down, betrayed, belittled. Consequences are going to come because you are standing up for me. And Satan's going to yield every attack he can to try and persuade you not to. But you needed to know that you could go through it. And by going through the pain, you will know that there's nothing that they can do unto death. And you could actually suffer this unto death. But if you do, you know that that's only a physical death, not a spiritual death. And I want you to understand and separate what you're doing is not entering back into life. You're already in life. You're entering into an environment that has a decaying death and consequences and pains in different ways. And I want to show you that you can and you will endure. Now, when he said, if you endure that, then he would allow it. It was, I still had a choice. You see, we have free will and free choice in everything. And just like we have free will to choose him, we have free will to reject him. And it's his way of stimulating in me and knowing that my choice in going through all that was also accepting and choosing him to do it for him. So he allowed me to go through that for more of a proof, not proof, but to give me a full understanding of what I'm doing. And what he's asked me to do is not normal. It's not of an everyday occurrence. It's not like being a minister or a preacher where you're called to do it. He says, you're doing something very special. He says, you are going to be at the impetus of a worldwide final push of making as many people and everybody that needs to be made aware of Jesus and who he is and what he did to get ready for him to come back.
What is the assignment that the Lord has you doing now after this experience that he gave to you?
What is my mission here? The same as his. To do anything and everything that he enables me to do to share his word, his message, his love, his sacrifice, so that others will reach that moment where he can give them the faith and they have the understanding and comprehension of what he did. And then by grace, they believe and he will pull them in. He does it so that everything has one purpose, to lead them to Christ. Through teachings, through songs and music that I do, through different movies and things that we're doing, all of those aren't for me. They're not to make me look important or good or special. I am not. They are to use me as a vessel. That's all I am. But what comes through is what people need to look at as a result. If it's a song, don't listen to the music. Listen to the words, the message. You can listen to secular music and Christian music that is not made with a message, but that's just for entertainment. His is not. My testimony, I agree, it's hard for me to comprehend. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't sit with my wife when I see her, and we're talking, and I go, can you believe this? This is a year and a half ago. I was dead. I was dead. You were thinking about having to sell the house and everything else, and you were going to bury me. And now I'm sitting here with you as if nothing ever happened to me. And I don't even have a scar to show. But it's a reality. It's hard for me to comprehend. It's hard for me. It's not hard for me to understand because I was taught, but it still baffles, it still amazes me because I'm human. That I know he taught me. I know he explained everything to me. He explained how and why the Bible was written and everything else. And I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to preface it with this. what I'm going to say does not give you an excuse, and I'm not telling you to not read the Bible. By no means. Definitely read the Bible, study it, pray, have the Holy Spirit guide you through. But I have never read the Bible. I still haven't read the Bible. Yet everything in the Bible that Jesus put there, along with the Dead Sea Scrolls and everything else throughout history, he embedded in my brain and taught me when I was with him. And that's what I'm sharing. I'm not sharing book knowledge. I'm not sharing knowledge that was learned in a seminary or church. I didn't go to church every day. I didn't do it. I accepted the Lord in 1984 as my Lord and Savior, and it was real. And I thank God that it was, because I wouldn't have gone to heaven if it didn't. But between then and when I died, I didn't go to church. I didn't do anything. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't even own a Bible when I died. But the one that inspired and wrote that Bible taught me. So there's no excuse to not read the Bible. I say I don't read the Bible. I haven't read the Bible. I read it over in my mind every day, I guess. And I read it when I talk to people about it, and I tell you scriptures, because I'm assuming that the scriptures that I tell, at this point I do, are accurately in the Bible, because people will look them up and I tell them to look them up. But those scriptures aren't from me learning the Bible. It's from what he puts in my head when I'm talking to people, because that's what they need to understand. And that's to show them where it is, and that's where they can go to get it. So my whole goal in life is one thing now: strictly to talk about Jesus, to make sure everybody understands. My poor wife, she goes, living with me is like living in church 24 hours a day. She said, I can't go to a restaurant. I went to a restaurant last night, and I ended up talking to a lady in there who, she said, you need to talk to this lady. And he told me what it was that she was going through. And the poor waitress was about ready to get fired, because she's sitting over at our table and she's crying. But Jesus wanted that to reach it. So that's what it is. It's 24 hours a day. I just want to share Jesus. I can't. It's like breathing. I can't stop myself. If I do, I would die.
Thank you very much, Brother Robert. This has been a wonderful time. How can people get to know you more and what you do for the Lord?
Go to 44hoursinheaven.org, 44hoursinheavenministries.org. They all get you to the same place. It's my website. On there, I have places where you can ask questions or comments. I have music on there, messages from Jesus. We have an app on there. I've written several books. You can get them on there as well. In fact, this was the very first book. It's called 44 Hours in Heaven. It has some of the medical records in here to show how and why I died. It's my point of view, my wife's point of view, what she was going through. It talks a little bit about going into heaven and coming back, and it has the command that he gave me in there. It's an absolute must read before any of the other books, so you understand. And then the second one I have is 44 Hours in Heaven, My Walk with Jesus. These are on there as well. There are also audiobooks of those are on my app that you can get. You can get that on the website. The second book is a direct transcript of the conversations between Jesus and I when I was in heaven, and so is the third. And that's Walk Beyond Time. You can find all those on my website, 44 Hours in Heaven Ministries. If you get one, any money that you get it with goes straight into the ministry. I don't take a penny from it. We have music on there. There's a place if you want me to come and talk at your church or your group for personal appearances. You can fill out that, and we try and schedule it in. And also we have newsletters that we go out, and daily prayers and so on, and we take prayer requests, and we just try to do as much as we can. And you can find out if I'm going to be in your area, and you can come to one of my live talks. My talks are not just the testimony. As you saw here, I like to answer questions. So I'll give my testimony, and then I'll open up for questions for 6 or 8 hours. And you can ask any question you want about the Bible, heaven, Jesus. Don't ask me for the lottery numbers. I don't know. And don't ask me when he's coming back. I don't know. But just do that. Put a message in there. If I need to get hold of you, I will. I got a YouTube page, 44hoursinheavenministries.org. Or just the easiest way, I guess, go to Google and type in 44 Hours in Heaven Ministries. Hit enter, and the first 5 pages will tell you everything and everything about it and where I've been and what I'm doing and how to get a hold of me. That's it.
Can you pray for everyone listening so that the words that the Lord has spoken through you will reside in their hearts and it will abide and it will bear fruit? Let them open up their hearts to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Dear Heavenly Father, I come to you today and I just thank you. Thank you for this joyous opportunity and time and reunion of those that have been able to listen to this and those that will listen to it in the future. Even though it might not be live, they can hear it, and that they would share it as well, Father. Because your word, your message, we want to touch each and every heart that hears it. That would be the opportunity, the moment when you give them your faith and your grace, pull them into your everlasting love for all of eternity, Father. Father, I pray that those that had questions today perhaps got them answered. That a message I know that you give through me touches everybody in different ways. And Father, that's how we know it's from you. I don't even know exactly what it was each person wanted to get out of it, but I know you do. And your ways are so far above ours that it's like the heavens above our head. We just can't comprehend it, but we trust in it. Father, I ask that you would bless every person that heard this, bless their time, give them more time to learn and share and love the way that you want us to do. Father, thank you again for Ryan giving me this opportunity. Thank you for this time that we are here, that we can share this throughout the world by the means that you've given us. I pray this, Father, not just in hopes, but in knowing that you will do all that we've asked. And I pray this in the power, in the name of Jesus Christ that you've given. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.